I mentioned the beginning interview and the fact of when you made a decision in 1998 about Apple, and you had some reservations. But at the same time, during your interview with Steve, you said something like this: I was prepared within 5 minutes to throw caution to the wind. What did he say that made you believe this company is the place for Tim Cook?
It was an interesting meeting. I had gotten a call several times from the search people that he had employed, and I kept saying no. I was at Compaq. I was happy, or thought I was, and they were persistent. And so I finally thought, I'm going to go out and take the meeting. Steve created the whole industry that I'm in. I'd love to meet him.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I'm honestly going into the meeting.
There's no downside of this.
Well, I'm just thinking I'm going to meet him, and all of a sudden he's talking about his strategy and his vision, and what he was doing was going 100% into consumer, when everybody else in the industry had decided you couldn't make any money in consumer, so they were headed to servers and storage in the enterprise. And I'd always thought that following the herd was not a good thing.
Yes,
was a terrible thing to do, exactly. Right? It was, you're either going to lose big or lose, but those are the two options. He was doing something totally different, and he told me a little about the design, enough to get me really interested. And he was describing what later would be called the iMac.
Yeah.
And the way that he talked and the way the chemistry was in the room, it was just he and I could tell I can work with him. And I looked at the problems Apple had, and I thought, I can make a contribution here. And working with him, and this is a privilege of a lifetime. And so all of a sudden, I thought, I'm doing it. I'm going for it. And you have this voice in your ear that says, go west, young man, go west. I was young at the time. But you come back and you try to do the things that people do with spreadsheets and stuff, and none of it makes sense. It didn't make sense. And yet, my gut said, go for it. And I listened to my gut. There was literally no one around me that was advising me to do it.
But in your speech at Auburn, your commencement speech, you spoke to intuition.
Yes. And that's what I mean by gut.
Yeah.
My intuition was telling me loudly to go. And it wasn't based on, as an engineer, you want to write down pros and cons, and the financial part you want to look at, and you want it to say, go. You want it to sort of validate the decision that your guts come. And it never did. Because, Michael Dell had made a comment weeks earlier that if he were the CEO, and he was a very respected CEO, that if he were the CEO of Apple, he would close it down and give the money back to the shareholders.
Yeah.
That it had no future.
I remember he said that. Yeah.
And he was just saying what everybody thought.
They didn't know Steve Jobs.
They didn't know Steve. And so in that meeting, I concluded all of those guys are wrong. They don't know him, and they don't know his vision, and they see things in the traditional way, which Steve never did. He was always looking well beyond the
and looking at things
norm.
with beginner's eyes.
Yes, he had a gift for that. He clearly had a gift for that. And he took that gift and embedded it in the company. It wasn't a gift that he kept to himself. And so I loved many things about him. He's a dear friend, but he was also a great mentor. He was a great teacher. This is something that's never written about him. But what he left in not just me, but many of us, is what he taught us. He was one of the best mentors in the world.
This is more than perfectionism.
Oh, it's much more than that. No, it's much more than that, because that's holding the bar so high that it's very hard to hit. But no, it's teaching, and it's teaching and making sure people are learning, and him taking such an interest, he's going out of his way to do this. And I saw him do that over many years with not just me, but many people. And I think it's missed. It's a huge, huge part of what he did that's missed in most of the things that I've read.
The misconception misses that, the teaching aspect of it.
It does. That and the human aspect of him.
Right.
He was an incredible human being. And I think, I've never read anything that really captured him or captured the Steve I knew.